guys, it's Sam, and these are my most anticipated releases for the spring. So the spring season for me is March, April, May. I am so excited that it's spring because we've gotten so much snow. We still have it, but the end is in sight. So I actually have a number to get through, so let's get into it. The first is on the 2nd, which I probably have released this after the 2nd, but I'm filming it back in February. And that is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This I recently talked about in a video where I talked about like, will I read it? Will I buy it? And I don't have much new to say about this because I just talked about it. But this is the 2nd book in the Last Hour series, which is a spin-off series of the Infernal Devices taking place like years after with those characters' kids mostly. And this, I will always say it forever and always, these are CW TV shows in book form. They are just pretty people, a bunch of them, all making eyes at each other and like having interpersonal dramas, and that's why I read it. I could not care less about the actual plot of this story. The demon stuff, I don't care. No. Who's kissing? That's what I want to know. Who is pining for each other? Who is not communicating properly? Those are the themes that I'm here for, not for any of the other content. No. Then we have a book that's been on my list for a while. I had to have seen it on Twitter sometime, but I feel like it's been on here for like over a year. I don't know. And that is Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft. This I've basically added because of the tagline, a little bit because of this cover. It seems dark and angsty. The tagline says, "He saw the darkness in her magic, she saw the magic in his darkness." That speaks to me, right? Does it speak to you on a deep level? And I believe her main character is bi. She's in like the Queen's Guard. She gets separated from her best friend, who I don't know if her best friend is the queen, but it says like that's the woman, the girl she loves. And then she gets invited to this like eccentric lord's estate and she's trying to redeem herself. And then when she gets there, it's very like weird. He's like, you know, like don't leave your room at night and all this stuff. And the person she's there to help is actually like, I think like an assassin or something who's like the sworn enemy of her kingdom. All very angsty. And they call it a snow-drenched romantic fantasy. So there's some vibes here that are going to be repeated in the themes of this list a couple of times. This sounds like just a gothic romantic fantasy with a possibly bi main character, with what I'm getting from this synopsis. There's going to be creepy stuff in the mansion. They're going to be bonded together. She's possibly sapphic as well. Like, I don't know, but I'm very intrigued. This whole gothic element that is being sprinkled into a lot of books lately, I'm here for it. Then we have The Descent of the Drowned by Anna Lal Din. And first off, this cover is really cool. There's all this talk of like gods and immortals and everything, but what really roped me in when I first heard about it is that this is a fantasy story set in colonized Indo-Persian society and inspired by pre-Islamic Arabian mythology. So anytime we see a fantasy story that is inspired by mythology that we're not used to, although I love me some Greek gods, some Romans, a little bit of Celtic, although we don't see that very often, give me gods that like we're not used to, therefore we don't know like all the plot beats of like what they do, and you learn more about like different cultures and history. Yes, absolutely. So I will be reading this because that sounds amazing. Then lastly, on March 30th, we have Bone Criers Dawn by Catherine Purdy. This is the 2nd book in the Bone Criers Moon duology. I think I've done a review for the 1st book, so I'll link that on the screen. But I dug this 1st book. It was like a solid, I think like 4-star for me, but there was like this forbidden romance element to it. Our main character is a bone crier, which means that she has these ties to like sort of like death magic and ushering the dead, and they like worship the moon, and there's like owls. There's just a lot of like themes and things that I really enjoy, and there's this like star-crossed lovers element of these like 2 main characters that are fated to kill each other because she as a bone crier has to like kill her one true love to like get powers and things like that. So it's a whole thing, and there's a lot of reveals at the end of the 1st book, so I'm interested in the 2nd book and what this leads us to. So it's a pretty solid fantasy duology series, and I'm interested to see how it finishes up. Then we enter April, and there are 2 books in April, both on the 20th. The first one is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart, and this is about 2 witches that team up in this society to basically go on like a vengeance plot, and it's set in a Jamaican-inspired fantasy world. It's really all I need to know. The synopsis mentions a lot of comps and things, but just like a cat and mouse vengeance story with 2 sworn enemies that maybe, like, is it gonna be sapphic? I don't know. And they're Jamaican witches. So yeah, this is also going to be great. Then also on the 20th, we have The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is the 4th and I believe final book in the Wayfarer series. I've read 2 of the 4 books. I'm hoping to read the 3rd, although it's the 2nd one that I haven't read, but the third one is 2nd in order but it's the third one that I'll be reading. I'm hoping to read that before this one, but I don't know if I will. Anyway, this is the fourth book in the Wayfarer series, which is a hopeful sci-fi series about the future and just like sort of slice of life sci-fi. Not a ton of action, although there's some, but it's more about like people and different kinds of people because there's a bunch of different like alien races that are in this, and it's just so unique but like hopeful instead of grimy, you know, like I'm into my grimy sci-fi. I'm always like, yes, the world is just gonna get worse because of like capitalism and stuff. But this is like, ooh, I would live there. That sounds nice. They still have their issues because they're human, but it's not like world-ending issues. So I like it. It's one of my comfort series. Then we enter May, and there's a ton of books in May. On May 4th, we have Sorrowland by River Solomon. River Solomon is the author of The Deep that I read last year. Really liked it. And I believe this will probably be another novella, but I'm actually not sure. But the vibes of this are immaculate. The synopsis says this is a genre-bending work of gothic fiction. See that gothic theme going on? Basically, we have a pregnant woman that flees into the forest, and I believe the forest is like alive. You know how I feel about like haunted, alive, like just spooky forests, and that's what this is. So there's probably going to be some body horror. It sounds like the forest like changes her. Is it going to be, you know, physically or metaphysically? We don't know. But I love a good like spooky forest. Not even just spooky, but like alive, like sentient forests. You guys know I want to live in the woods, and I would totally be fine living in a sentient woods. Like, yes. So anything with the sentient woods in it, I'm down. Then on the 6th, we had The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I haven't read John Gwynne's other series yet. I'm looking at it right now. Maybe I'll read it by the time this comes out. Probably not. I shouldn't say things like that. But this is the first book in his new series. It's going to be grimdark still. He does grimdark fantasy, but this is Norse inspired. I love me some Norse mythology. Who doesn't? Norse mythology is wild if you really get into it beyond just like the Thor movies, which even those are wild. So yeah, I'm very excited about this and just the vibes here. I think they're gonna be very good. I can't wait to just like read this and listen to Danheim, which is one of my favorite bands. It's basically like Norse witch music. I'm really excited for this. This is, I think, going to be right up my alley. Will I read or at least start The Faithful and the Fallen before that? Who knows? Then a complete turn. We have The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is a adult contemporary romance. Emily Henry wrote my favorite, one of my favorite adult contemporary romances of all time, Beach Read. That was last year, and this is not related to that at all, but this is a new one, and I think she's gonna do it again. I think she's gonna do it again. This is a story of two best friends who have been best friends like all their lives, and they would travel at least once a year together, and then a few years ago, 3, 5, something like that, something happened. I think it was probably like they had an accidental hookup or like misunderstanding, and they have like, their friendship has fallen apart. But one calls the other up and is like, we need to do like one last trip, like let's put it behind us, and they go on vacation again together. And they're obviously in love. So I'm really excited for the angst here. Second chance kind of romance vibes? Yes. Then another romance on the 25th, we have Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellafleur. I talked about the first book in this sort of companion series last year, Among the Stars, Across the Stars, but that was a sapphic romance that was Pride and Prejudice kind of inspired. And this is following the brother of one of the characters who has a like dating app and is like a hopeless romantic. And then one of the main characters in there, her best friend, who the brother has always been kind of in love with, but she's always been like, oh, it's my friend's brother, like blah blah. I think he's like maybe a little bit younger, but not by much. So there's been this thing, and then now she's like, ooh, he's like all grown up, and they kind of like reconnect. And again, it's almost like a Two Ships in the Night previously, the like sibling of friend situation like that happens. So, but I think this can be really cute. This first book was really cute, the sapphic one. I think this could be cute. I think I just have a lot of faith in it, and the characters are really adorable in these books, so I'm excited. I actually have an arc of this one, so I will for sure be reading this. And then on the 27th of May, the last book on this list, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of like BookTube's favorites. I feel like no matter what genre people read, they like will read Taylor Jenkins Reid books. But she typically does like historical fiction, but not like too historical. This is taking place in the 80s, and it follows like, I think like a rock star's kids or something, but basically a bunch of rich people are going to an island, and like something catastrophic is gonna happen there, and we are counting down until that happens. And I've mentioned before that when it comes to like literary fiction, which is not quite what this is, but like fiction that's not fantastical and is not romance, if I'm gonna read that, it has to be about rich people problems. Like, it has to be about ridiculous rich people drama. You'd think that because of that I would watch like Real Housewives or the Kardashians. I don't. I just like this like fictional mess that I can watch. So yeah, I'm really into the idea of this. I think it's gonna be really good and I'm excited. It has very good like summer vibes. They're gonna be at this like Malibu beach house, island, whatever they're gonna be doing. I don't know if it's on the private island or on a beach, but it's gonna be good, I think. I really like the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, so I think I'm gonna like this as well. Don't know if I'm gonna read this on audio or physical copy. Can't decide because I've done one of each so far with her books, so we will see. But that is it for all of the books that are coming out in spring that I'm very excited about. Comment below and let me know some of yours. Thank you all for watching and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.